Welcome. Hello. I can see some faces. We're going to give 1 minute for the rest of the people to arrive. And exactly as Angelica wrote in the chat, you can start by writing the company you are working for and the country where you are based at the moment, so we can get to know you a bit. Neither. Wow. Welcome.
Hello, welcome.
I see some people joining. I think slowly we will start, and if people join later, remember we will record this talk, so you can also look at it later if you miss the first part. Welcome everybody to our Changemaker Chronicles number 5. Thank you, Katrin, that you are here with us today. Thank you for taking your time and welcome.
Thank you very much, Daniela, for having me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I can share with the audience. I really enjoyed preparing this conversation with you, and I learned a lot, so I'm quite eager now to ask you some questions. For everybody in the call, please write your name and the country you are coming from, the company you are working for in the chat, so at least we know who is in the room. I'm Daniela Kramer. I come from Argentina, but I'm based now in Basel in Switzerland and work for the Changemaker Companies team. So if you want to share, that would be super nice. We will have a talk for more or less 20-25 minutes with Katrin, but we will have time in the end for you to ask questions if you want to ask Katrin direct questions, but also you can write your questions during the talk in the chat and we will come back to them. You can choose both. Hi, Sarah, welcome. Yes, thank you for writing. And today is about topics that are very close to my heart. We want to talk about courage. We want to talk about diversity and how, as a leader, you can leverage this in your team and in your organization. And as you know, the Changemaker Chronicles is a space we are organizing from the Changemaker Companies team at Ashoka to give the voice to leaders who are creating change in a very creative way, in a very human way, and to learn from them. So, Katrin, welcome again. And I will tell you something about Katrin. She's a very courageous woman, has a lot of experience in companies in the corporate world, a very strong personality. I have learned to admire you, Katrin, while you were talking. And you have also a strong success stories in sales. And since now we haven't talked about sales in the context of change makers. So looking back, Katrin, your experience in sales, what do you think are the skills you have mastered that made a difference in your career?
That's not so easy to probably put into 3 or 4 words, but I actually started in the production side, so I was actually not always in sales, and the reason I changed to sales was because I felt I didn't have enough impact on the production side, and that the sales people had way more power to have in making a change, considering the change making program. So, you know, in the end, it's we are still in a capitalistic world, so money and money bringing in matters. So I think determination on that end. To decide to change from production to sales was quite a risky move, but just doing it without really having, let us say, formal training on that side until later was probably one of the big ones. And the other one is feeling, I think, accountable in a sense of if you expect other people to do it for you, it probably never happen. So I do remember my very first sales role I did, and was not so comfortable, and it was actually in the farming industry. So all men, and also particularly lots of old men as well. In that context, I was in my 20s, late 20s. So also there, just doing it, and repetition helps. And I think once the first success came in, to realize that it's possible, and then to continue on that path.
And you had to adapt a lot, I'm hearing, no? Because you were coming from production, which is a completely different mindset. You are a woman and you were surrounded by men. So what was the secret ingredient in you to be able to adapt and find that new way?
I do think I have a slightly different background, as I'm German. I'm not, how do we say, I'm East German, so slightly different background. So that difference between men and women, I was not so aware of in my upbringing, first of all. So my dad was always very clear, you know, if somebody else can do it, you can do it also. So I probably had quite a upbringing in that sense, which did not hinder my development, which I think sometimes is the case when you have a different mindset upbringing. So I think that's quite a big one. And the other one is that I'm very competitive and very gaining. Although I have to say, right at the beginning, it wasn't so much about career as much. It was more about noticing that the people who were making decisions were not making the decisions the way I would make them, and more the drive of wanting to make that decision. And to be able to make into that decision, I had to be successful in what I'm doing, to be able to be seen, to be able to make that decision. So I think for me, it was more like the impact part of being in the right position, being able to make better decisions to what I was seeing. So that was the drive, I think, which drove me particular at the beginning.
Thank you, Katrin. It's interesting to see how much does it make from us, no? How we are, what do you listen from our parents, the territory where we are born, or the culture, and how you bring that to change the game when you are in the professional life. And I hear also you are talking about authenticity. You have been yourself, no? I have heard that from you as well. And well, I was, yeah,
I'm not sure. I think I'm now much closer to myself. I'm not sure. I have to be honest. I'm not so sure that was the whole way of my career like this, to be fair. I would more say that I made career more as a man, however you call it, more in that sort of way of what I see, what I watch, what other people are doing, and saying, well, I can do that too. I can do that too. I can move in that direction too. I think as I got older, and yes, for women, it's always having the babies and having a different view on life, that the authenticity, or whatever you call it, being more myself, probably only came through in my 30s, late 30s, I would say. Not really before that so much. Although I know my previous bosses would say she was always a pain in the ass. So I think depending maybe how much authenticity
we could say maybe the authenticity grow in the years to come.
I think so. No, but I in reality, I think that's for many women the case. It comes with the years as well. Yeah.
No. And we talk about women, and there is a chapter of this conversation which points to the feminine perspective at work. And my question to you, what do you think are the benefits of the feminine perspective in a corporate when you are a leader?
Well, I think the easy and most egoistic way, when I look at it first, was when you're a saleswoman in a pure male world, customers quite like having a woman. Well, it was quite the easy way out to get the appointments, let's say that way. They don't want to see another old man. So on that end, if you just look at the egoistic way, being the one out does help in sales in terms of opening the doors. I would definitely say that in my first years, I experienced that a lot. So that part is, let us say, the direct part I felt. When you then obviously grow and you get more into leadership stuff, let's say the view on collaboration or the view on making a team work, this need that, how do we say, society needs to function not only in a impact way but also in a personal or human way. I think that's very often brought in by the female perspective. The idea that if we are all functioning well and we are reasonable happy, and I'm not a fan of saying everyone has to be happy at work, but in a, let us say, more than just turning up each morning and crying, obviously liking to go to work, is helped by diverse teams very clearly. When you have not only one perspective and not only one view and not only one way of doing things, it's inviting, and people normally find this much more culturally attractive in that sense. So I think that is definitely with any diversity as well, with the female side particular, the team feeling or the team spirit is helped a lot by that. Yeah.
And so if I understand what you are saying is like, from the female perspective, you create like a space, a safe space where people can work and be listened. And
I think we care a bit more about that topic. I'm not actually saying this has to be that way, just to be very clear, because sometimes it's also one of those things we take on as an extra job at work. I do not see it as my job to make sure everyone is happy, but I think I automatically, or a bit more in my nature, to have a look around and make sure there's no obvious shit going on, let's say that way. More quicker to see that, which also brings us women often in trouble, because when you see shit and you name shit, it also means you interrupt a running system, and in a minute you interrupt a running system, you're also quickly a target. So that's the other point. So it always has plus and minuses, and if you want to change things or you want to highlight certain things you see, that also comes with a risk, clearly, especially in settled organizations who have a certain way of doing things. And they may, as an organization, do not want to change.
And then you create some noise.
Absolutely. And noise is not always welcome.
No. But well, we were talking before, and the title of this conversation has also to do with courage and what courage can bring. And that's also the risk. And when we were preparing for this call, Katrin, we were talking about diversity as a competitive factor. No, how we, for the growth of a company, we need diversity. I wanted to ask you, for you, what does it mean to be diverse?
So when I give you an example, so I have now the role in Kersia of leading the multinational business. So any accounts which are in more than one country, my team is managing. So all multinational accounts. So if you imagine you have, I think, what do we have? Our top 20 accounts, globally speaking. They sit maybe in 20 different countries, maybe even more. Headquarters, they are themselves, if you talk about the big names, they are international themselves. They have a big mixture in the food industry, obviously, mainly. So imagine you have one type, and we see this a lot, particularly actually in Germany, one type of sales force and one type of person, and you keep doing the same thing. And you have a procurement department, and I have this as a real example. One customer procurement department is 5 young women in Spain. Actually, it was in Spain. 5 young women, and the sales people on our end are 2 old men. And I'm not in principle. I'm not just painting the picture now. And we have no contact with but we're having a business with them. So you ask the question, so why Why do we not have any meetings with them? Oh no, they don't want to have meetings. We haven't seen them in 2 years. What? Do you not think that's a bit risky, or not seeing them in 2 years? We may lose business or not. No, we don't really. They are young and inexperienced. They don't really know what they're doing. We don't need to do this. So you can imagine, as a sales leader, I'm thinking, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. It's only waiting for somebody else coming along, meeting these 5 procurement ladies with a maybe slightly different mindset. And soon you do not have that business anymore. So for me, it's also matching the customer expectation and the type of people. So our customers are diverse. Our customer contact points are international. I have a lot of different things. And we see particular in these big organizations where you have a whole different view across, I travel to Geneva, to Madrid, to Mexico, wherever the diversity is very high. So if we are not matching that, sorry, but your growth rate will not be where it could be. It just is a fact. It's not a made up thing. You like buying from people who understand you, who look at you, and who feel like they can talk to you. Even in very large corporations, humans buy from humans, and if there is the gap is too big, it just doesn't have the same impact, which does not mean you go to zero and then always this sort of panicky, but it means you grow not as fast as you could be growing. The other point obviously is very clearly change management. I mean, we're talking all about AI, we're talking about war in Iraq, we're talking about raw material issues. So you need solutions every single day. You need agility, you need to somehow react to this, which in fixed systems, it's actually quite a challenge. It's not one of those things you can in a fixed organization just swap processes. So the more variance or differentiation, different people you have, the more likely it is you maybe find the solution or the different way of doing it, which actually works in that market, in that speed, in that sense. So having only one view and one perspective just closes down your picture and your view and your options of solutions. If you believe solutions come from your own people and from your own employees and from your teams, you need to have a selection of them, because that one person will not be, it's just a bit unlikely coming up with that solution.
Now that we are in the World Cup, I was picturing the whole team with the different, positions and expertises. And I totally agree with you, and especially if you are in a global company, working with so many cultures.